I think I'd like to call this meeting to order. Is that what I say?
Yes.
So I think we all know each other, so no introduction is necessary. And does anybody have any changes they'd like to make to the agenda?
I don't think, do I know?
I'm Andre Phelps.
I can see.
Yep, I was here last time, but that was my
Where?
first time.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't remember.
It's okay.
Well, I'm old. So, my memory's fading sometimes.
It's okay.
I have a little memory fade.
Yeah, so I was here last time.
Andre's our new Steven. She's our new neutral.
Amber, you were here too?
I was here
Must
last
have
time.
been. God, must be. I got a close friend that's got Alzheimer's. And it's not a pretty sight.
Oh, here comes.
Sorry for being late.
Okay, so do we need to vote on the agenda? No. So,
Just see if anybody has any changes.
no. Do you have any changes to the agenda? No. So I don't see any members of the public here, so no public comment. On to approval of meeting minutes. Does anybody have any changes to make to the meeting minutes? For July 17th.
I do not.
Okay, we vote. All right, so, put out a motion. Okay, put a motion out to approve the meeting minutes from July 17th. Seconded. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. July 17th minutes approved. So on to the staff report.
Okay, I have a lot to go over, so I'm gonna try to go through it as quickly as I can. So all of you got the memo about Far West Steel Fabrication relocating their manufacturing part of their business to Glenwood, so they're no longer in the program.
They have a facility right out on 90, I bet it's not the city limits. So. Just went by. Yeah, it's right close to Pepe there. That's why we need a map.
Okay, well, that's another item. I know at one point they had 2 locations in Eugene and they were doing manufacturing at both. And
Yeah,
then-
they have one out. I do a lot of work. with They have one out off of the road where States Industries is.
No, I think that's right now.
Rick's copy of the
Yeah,
difference.
you can't have.
Well, I'm pretty confident that.
Anyway,
locations-
they've got 2 or 3 places. They do a lot of burning, forming of steel and press brakes and that kind of thing. And they have big ones. So would they do some work for us? One of them buy steel from them, but they do a lot of our bending that we can't do with some of our equipment.
I'll have to double check the Highway 99 location.
It's
And there's
fairly new.
So many I can. And it could be out of the city limits. So then I sent also a draft memorandum to the planning director, requesting maps annually from all of you. And then just to kind of make sure that the request would make sense, I checked in with my contacts in the planning department. And they said, well, I don't need, they didn't find the need to be so formal as to have a memo from the toxics board, but you all can decide to do that if you still want to. And what they also informed me of is that they don't currently have maps that show all of the businesses in Eugene with names and addresses. That would kind of be a special project that they would ask one of their interns to do.
You only need
Or something like
an
that.
outline. You can plug in the businesses, couldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, they can, but they don't have any staff that does exactly that right now. So anyway, all right, just hold on. They are happy to work with us to get us what we need. It's not something they currently have in place. And they said, you know, just give us a little time, give us some time to get an intern, and we can have them do that as a special project. So, it's up to all of you if you still would like to make a formal request with a memo. And I made an error. I stated that the memo would go to the executive director, Sarah Maderi, but it would actually go to the planning director, like Lisa Arkin had recommended, who is acting in capacity right now for her work. So just be one person. So I don't know if you guys want to have that discussion right now.
So we don't need to make a formal request to get those maps, but how else would we be ensured that they're working on creating them?
You can just trust me.
Okay.
Trust me that I trust the relationship I have with the planning and development staff. Or if you want to formalize it, that's it.
Was there any idea of a timeline for how long it would take to develop that?
They've been working on trying to get a intern geared up and set in place for the fall. So that would be one of the projects, the first projects they would work on. You know, school's about to start, so, you know, probably a month or two away. So we could have something probably by the end of the year, is what it's on in my understanding.
That's amazing to me, they wouldn't have a map
Yeah.
with all the school districts and all the taxes and all that, they wouldn't have a map of the city limits.
Well, they have that, they just don't have the businesses mapped on it yet.
Oh,
That's
well,
what it's gonna take time to do,
I
is
can
exactly
certainly-
what you were saying, is plug them all out and pop them on there.
Yeah, they have tons of maps with all different kinds of things, but just not this specific one. And they would need a little time to kind of pull it together.
Understand that.
The neighborhood services mailing list for the whole city, I think identifies which addresses are businesses and can be extracted. It's the list we used to mail to all of our constituents.
We probably don't want just businesses though. I mean, do we want all businesses or do we want, are we able to break it down by zip codes?
Well, I wouldn't ask them to do that. That would kind of be part of my analysis work. What I was envisioning getting was a list or a map of all businesses.
But I think that they might be able to help you. It's a postal list.
So you go through the neighborhoods?
Ask Michael Hennessy. Because I'd asked about that on something else. Are the lists we have of all mailing addresses differentiated between businesses and residences? And they said yes.
Okay, that's great.
And I was wondering, if you have this map, it's kind of a static map, I mean, how do you keep it updated, or how do you know that the information you have is current in 6 months or a year? We're just wondering if there was any, I mean, it seems really strange that the city doesn't have something that can just give you that lists all the businesses within the city limits, that can
Yeah.
be easily updated.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I was asking around, because I wasn't 100% confident that it was the planning department that we needed to go to. But they said, yes, it would be, but this specific thing is not something they have in place. But I'm kind of surprised too. So I can start with neighborhood services to see if I can get a better answer. And then I'm kind of sensing that it would probably be a good idea to formalize the request.
They also have a permit to use the big database that LCOG operates.
Mhm.
That might have sort of, and Reenie King knows that, and it's the, I forgot the name.
Yeah,
The RLID,
it's-
the
yeah.
RLID, Regional Land Information Database. And if it needed some volunteer, it might be something that just takes time, that maybe you need volunteer help or something.
Yeah, like a planning intern would like
Yeah.
really be ideal to do the work. So.
Yeah, and it's the RLID system,
Mhm.
so they have both the postal service and the LCOG database.
Okay. So what does everybody think? We still wanna do a memo? I'll,
I mean, are we just talking sort of a paragraph, like you've got?
yeah, like I had said, kind of as an example.
So maybe ask those questions about keeping it updated and renewal.
And maybe also make it a little more open-ended that we don't maybe necessarily need a map and the list is sufficient as long as it's a current and up-to-date list.
Probably somebody who knows how to do it can take the list and put it in some Google Earth function and, you know, like little stars will show
Yeah.
up on a map magically. I don't know. Whoa, those little red drops.
Little
That'd be
balloons.
great.
That'd be a big red map.
Yeah, right.
Spots.
Okay. So I'll add those details and do a little more checking around to make sure we're asking the right people to do it. And then send you out another draft for review. Draft formal memo request for review.
For monitoring new businesses that may be needed to participate in the program.
Well, that piece I've done within my own section of the fire department, because we have 2 deputy fire marshals that sit at the permit and information services desk, which is through planning. And we've just kind of formalized a process for any new business or any business that's requesting a remodel on the plans review part, just kind of do an assessment of what's going on and see if maybe they might meet the requirements and then give me the referral. So we've done that piece, but this process is just kind of a secondary capture, because we're all really confident there's still some businesses out there that have been out there for a number of years that should have been in the program that we haven't been able to identify and integrate yet.
So what is the timeline for this, for getting out a memo? So you put it together a draft memo, then you send it to us, and then we all approve it, or we have to wait till the next meeting to approve it?
Yeah.
So I would just worry about getting past when an intern gets in there and then starts on other projects that, no?
No,
Okay,
I'm not
all right.
worried about that.
Okay.
Because I've already put the bug in there.
Okay,
and
okay.
They have it on their little list.
Okay, great.
No, they'll come through for me.
Okay. Great.
Cool. Okay, good. And then the next memo I'm gonna talk about a little bit later, to just kind of fly through the rest of the ones. Finally finished the invoicing process for the current fiscal year we're in, which is July 1st, 2014 through June 30, 2015. Sent out the invoices and everybody paid. Again, Green Deer Recycling requested the payment arrangements, and they'll have their invoice paid by the end of the year. So that's excellent news. Also, talking about our friends in planning, they sent out the draft Envision Eugene Environmental Justice Issue Briefing for review. And I scanned through it and made some editing suggestions, and then I forwarded all of you a copy of that, just to keep you informed of what's going on with that process. So I'm really excited about this process because it is really a good opportunity to showcase what value the data from the program can provide in planning processes. And it just folds back to a city council request to start adding that lens in for planning staff.
Can you summarize the immediate down the road impact of this proposed expansion of the urban growth boundary in the Clearview area? They looked at the communities and whether it was an environmental justice issue, but now, was it certain or likely that the expansion of the urban growth boundary would also mean annexation of areas that might be in the program, or is it just
Well, the annexation piece is part of the bigger Envision Eugene process. What we're talking about right now is just developing the Clear Lake Road area
right?
and planning out the uses.
Is that
for
already in the city limits?
implement, yes.
It is, okay,
Yes.
so never mind, I thought it was, so anything that goes in there is automatically going to be involved in this program?
Well, if they meet the requirements.
Yeah, I mean, but if they're already in the city limits, is this a rezoning to make it available industrial lands, upzoning?
Well, they're working on the assessment to make that decision right now.
But that's what it would be, because mostly they usually are talking about expanding the urban growth boundary, like in the CD Loop area is not in an urban growth boundary. This area already is, but it's not zoned to meet the supply of developable industrial land. Is that the decision that would need to be made?
Well, I'm not an expert on the project, so, you know, I can't answer your question really thoroughly. But the planning commission is, you know, helping the city plan through the Envision Eugene process development for this area. They've done an assessment so far to find out that the land that's available for development in the Clear Lake Road area is not suitable for residential. And so now they're doing some other phases of analysis to try to determine what uses it is available for and come up with some recommendations on.
But it's already in the city limits.
And this particular piece is already in the city limits.
So I'm gonna assume that this is currently zoned residential and reevaluating.
I don't know, I mean, I sent you a copy of the report.
Yeah.
You can read it and it could probably answer most of your questions. I just, it's not my area of expertise,
Yeah,
so.
okay, I was just trying to figure out I didn't realize it was already in the city limits.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions on that? All right, okay, updated toxic sports procedures. So this is finalizing, and I didn't include it in the copy of the packet, so pass around copies for people in case they didn't bring it. Just finalizing what we talked about at the meeting, the last meeting, excuse me, mostly really specifically defining that very extreme circumstance when we're short on staff members for due to vacancies or people needing to be absent, and I'm facing an impending deadline. So this is, you know, not typical of other city boards and commissions, but the Eugene Toxics Board is different from other city boards and commissions in the way that we're governed by the charter amendment, which does not really specify procedures for how we conduct business, which is why the original chair of the Toxics Board created this secondary document. So I know Lisa had brought that concern up before. And my concern is always meeting public records requests, and I feel, you know, again, just to be really specific, this is not an excuse to not attend Toxics Board meetings. That's just a very extreme, specific circumstance to allow the Toxics Board to still get their work done in the event we don't have enough members here. But there's no way it can be used all the time. So I just wanted to double check with all of you first that I captured everything that was discussed and decided on at the last meeting. And then if everybody's okay with it, to have a vote of approving the procedures. And then we'll review again as a board next year.
That's good.
Good.
So we need a motion.
Motion.
Motion to approve.
Yeah, I move to approve the memo submitted by Joe. Move
Well,
forward
it's
with-
Christine.
Christine.
Oh, Christine, oh, excuse me, all right, articulated by Joe, writing of Christine.
I second. Okay, all in favor?
I
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, is that one you can do this? Yes. Thanks.
No, but it's in my head that I should say something.
Oh, okay.
I just think it should say in the extreme circumstance, not under the extreme circumstances, but that is just being really particular.
Oh, and that's okay, I mean, because you can, what is it called, make a motion to
Yeah.
change that.
It lowers the
And then-
Did you
credibility of
hear,
the
did you
topic.
hear it in my head? I was thinking.
I did.
Make a motion just to change, I mean, it's not any substance.
Yeah, just
It
make
makes
it
it read a little easier.
Make
Okay,
a
can I-
recommendation.
Okay, can I make a recommendation that we say in the extreme circumstance?
Do we need a second it? Seconded?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
So the updated toxic sport procedures are approved as, excellent. Yay. All right. So then I sent a copy of what I sent to the city attorney, asking for consideration of an ordinance to change the Eugene code so that we, the Toxics Board, can facilitate delegating authority to the city manager for not only adding chemicals to the list of reportable chemicals, but removing chemicals and updating the hazardous substance tracking instructions. And the reason for that being is that I'm just always looking for ways to streamline processes. It is like double the work when I have to go to city council for an item versus going to the city manager. And these are two truly administrative tasks. And so it just really makes sense that they be delegated to, the authority for doing those, get delegated to the city manager instead of having to go to city council for those. So this hasn't really gone anywhere yet because there's been a lot of other things going on at city council and city manager level. But it is in the attorney's lap, looking at my suggested updates to the Eugene code. And I'm just gonna try to go to city council for that ordinance at the same time I go for next year's hazardous substance user fee, just to, be like really efficient with the time. All the things for the toxics program just go then. So what that will do is that a couple of the pending items we have for future agenda meetings for the toxics board for chemical updates, those will need to wait till after we get that done. But I don't think that's gonna really be a huge impact to anybody. We'll just keep.
Well, this is
keep our.
one item of the memos that I was concerned about, and maybe it could be reworded in some way, or maybe I don't understand it, but I think that, I guess I hear you saying that there's a load on the program staff, to research and recommend on this, but it seems like the other discussions we had, a lot of it relied on the knowledge of the commission, or the board members, and that the qualifications or reason for selecting is that they have some knowledge, and since it is a balanced group, that we would be taking something that we have a higher level of expertise, the unpaid board members, and referring it on to a department who doesn't have that expertise is high cost. And they're more like, who do you know and who do we call?
So I had the same concern, but when I read the memo
Mhm.
thoroughly, Joe put it really concisely that it's not transferring the authority to recommend something be removed.
Mhm.
It's just this physical act of updating the documents. So the toxics board would remain in the position of recommending changes. It's
Okay.
just that the city
Absolutely.
manager's office would carry out those changes once approved, instead of who was at city council doing it before. So it's just a transference of who's officially updating the documents per our recommendations.
Yeah. So the toxics board would still have the recommending authority.
Is it certain that we would be informed of any proposed additions, no matter how routine they seem?
Yes.
before it's done.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
written really clearly that even says the city manager will only do this per the recommendation of the toxic board.
Okay.
And that follows language that's in the charter. And then, at the same time, you didn't specifically state this, but the city council can weigh in at any time on any recommendation coming from the toxics board or an action of the city manager and say, no, that's not how it's gonna be done.
Well,
But-
sounds
but-
okay, I guess. It's just-
But taking care of the public process part, this is just recommending that the city manager lead that now instead of the city council. But still,
I see.
all the information will,
It doesn't take away the role,
of the
which
toxic
is
board.
better
No.
prepared and one of the main reasons for us existing, and we're supposed to know something about
No.
the subject.
It's not taking your authority out at all, because we can't do that anyway.
Okay.
It's in the charter. So I will keep you posted on that. I was gonna kind of wait till, a little bit later in the year to start following up on getting this kind of pushed through the process. So I'll keep you updated on that. And then, not right after the last Toxics Board meeting, but fortunately before this Toxics Board meeting, I was following up on my to-do notes and noticed that I had missed sending you the overview of the Roberts Rules of Order, which I had also inadvertently not included in last month's packet. So just sent that out to you for information and was wondering if anybody had any questions.
I didn't read it, but I got it.
Oh, excellent. So again, because our, like formal governing law is the charter, we kind of loosely use Robert's Rules of Order as guideline, just because that's the city standard. And I personally leave it up to the chair, just to be aware of that document and kind of take the lead on following it as closely or loosely as what we would need to. Then I have also been picking away, in between everything else, trying to finish up a couple rounds of identifying some businesses that have been brought to my attention. And I have identified 3 businesses that do meet the first 3 requirements to be in the program. So they will at least be paying a fee, and I will be working with them over the next couple months to see if they will also be required to submit a hazardous substance report. So the new businesses are All Tech Finishes, one of the Instaprint locations, and Steelhead Brewery. And then I have a couple other that you probably in the next couple of days will be seeing another memo from me on. And so that's good.
How many breweries do we have this time in the program? In the program?
I think with Steelhead, we now have 3, and one of the other 2 businesses I was talking about is Hop Valley, so about to be 4. But I haven't received a response from them yet, so I can't officially
So I've read
say that.
Ninkasi and.
Ninkasi, well, I'll have to send you email
Okay,
because
all right.
we have like
didn't even-
75 businesses in the program, I can't
Yeah.
remember everything.
Yeah, I didn't know we had any breweries, but I knew we were growing breweries, and
Yeah.
as an actual health concern, it's something, yeah. If you live next to one, you would want to know how much is released in a mass balance accounting.
It's all good.
Free drinks.
I bring my own beer.
Well, good thing I live next to you. No, I'm just
And we have a brewery district.
Well, even with that I brew, the neighbors always say they can smell the hops.
Well, hops are smelly.
Oh. That's how you look at it.
I didn't say it was bad. And so.
Hop Valley makes really hoppy beer. And it's got a little, I don't know if you ever tasted it, but that's why it's called Hop Valley, I
Really?
guess. Yeah, that's what makes beer bitter, the hops.
do the breweries that are paying a fee, do they report, are there no, the chemicals involved do not meet
The chemicals involved, some of them are hazardous, but it pertains to cleaning their.
That's where
Yeah, thank you.
I was wondering what it is that they use.
It is usually just cleaning supplies.
Okay.
Their baths.
Bleach.
Sterilization would be the,
Yeah.
whatever they're using would be the big thing.
So again, it has to be a hazardous substance, and it has to be, they have to use at least 2,640 pounds to be required to report. So far, none of that.
The stuff I use for sanitation is the same thing they use in a restaurant. You know, put in the dishwashing water. I use a little more of it than they do maybe, but same stuff.
Whereas like the other one you identified, Alltech, is a paint maker, finishes and so on, that in their case,
Not
they.
paint, like varnishes.
It's their product, it's reported, isn't it, as well as.
Yes, because they
other-
manufacture the product.
Yeah, but the product of beer at the breweries is not on our list, or.
No,
the
breweries are, because it's
Mhm.
within the manufacturing sync code.
Right, but it just so happens that that product is not, or its major component, hops are not a
No.
reportable chemical or water.
They're not hazardous or
Okay.
hazardous substance, but.
Okay.
And it's-
How many chemicals are listed on, do you know?
Our list,
For the toxic board, how many chemicals? are
about
there?
2,600. Right. More than any other single program.
I don't know how one can slip through.
I mean, our distilled spirits, if somebody had a distillery, would that be?
Yep.
That would be a hazardous material.
Well, no.
It's illegal.
No.
Or reportable.
That is they would fall under this appropriate SIC code.
Mhm.
And then they would also need to have at least 10 employees,
Mhm.
and they would need to be within Eugene city limits. And as long as they were distilling something that was legal.
Yeah, but, well.
As long as it was legal business.
Most of
Otherwise,
the ones they've
So
talked
you have to
about
shut them
are
down.
micro distilleries. I mean, they wouldn't have 10 people, but the fact that they are heavily regulated.
They might.
I mean, yeah, it would be.
Kasi would.
Yeah, but they're not a
They're really
distillery.
wrong.
They're,
No.
I mean, a whiskey maker, there's some of these people starting, and so, but the fact that they're federally so intensively regulated does not exempt them from monitoring, say, the way that the pesticide industry is excluded from our domain.
Right, well, and that's because of the lawsuit, the ruling of the lawsuit. Because originally they were. Okay, back to topic. So, for the first time, in this last round of identifying businesses, I have had a business that's been not responding to my requests, or my boss's requests for information and meetings. So they have been put on notice, which means that, on the Toxics Board's behalf, I've made a request for the fire marshal to investigate. And, so they're gonna go do a full inspection, what's going on with this business and find out why they're not, replying to us. And, depending on the outcome of that, and I'll keep you informed as I have
What
information.
business is it?
Image King Science. And, we may need to have a conversation about imposing penalties, as outlined in the charter. And then that may also lead to civil penalties as well.
So they've never reported?
Yep, they have, they've been in business for a really long time, and they are one of those businesses that just kind of slipped through the cracks on being in the program. And, now we're asking them to just report some basic information to get them in the program, and they're not even reporting that, so they're in violation of the charter.
What's the
communication that's happened with them? Have they received any kind of warning letter or just a letter advising them to look into our program or?
Oh, no, I have a standard letter that,
Uh-huh.
I think most of you have seen, can't confidently say all of you have seen.
I don't know.
I'll send out a template, so all of you will have seen it. So it's just a questionnaire, me asking on behalf of the Toxics Board, you know, we've learned of information, seems like you meet the basic requirements to be in the program, please help us determine if you do. And, most people get back to me initially, and if not, they get back to me with a phone call. So for this particular business, they did not get back to me, and did not get back to me with multiple follow-up phone calls, including talking to the owner and the president
I see.
of the company. And he was not very nice, and he wasn't very happy, and he kept telling me he was gonna send the form. And he didn't, so after about 3 months of that, and very well documented, I sent an email to my boss, the fire marshal, and said, okay, here's the next steps, you need to make this request. And so it's in his court. I don't have details of what he's done. We haven't been able, we haven't gotten to the point of doing the inspection yet.
Do we have a
Sure.
timeline, or should we ask for a timeline when that's gonna be done?
I can ask for timeline.
And this is the first time that there's been an inspection?
This is the first time I've had this type of situation.
Okay.
Full up, and, yes, and it will be the first time I've had an inspection done like this.
Interesting.
But yeah, the Toxics Board, the staff have not gone out searching for people to add to the list.
No. No.
This is only the last year or so.
Yeah, I think it's been the last, I'd say 2.5 years, that I've been trying to.
Well, the fire marshal has a tendency to barge right in without, we've had some really heated discussion. I thought my partner one time was, you just don't walk into somebody's business and start taking it over. Period. You ask to come in and that's fine. They just we're gonna level $90 a day if we didn't put in some more sprinkler heads, and so we did. I've been arguing with them for about 5 years.
Well, I'm kind of surprised, they weren't more critics than that, but
Well, it was,
I think the
That was
staff
a
that are
long
there
time
now
ago.
do that, yeah, we've had some characters over the years.
well, I'll tell you where it got. It was, you give us a plan, or in 30 days you vacate the premises. Put 300 people out of work.
Well, it's
I've
probably
lived in the
another
city since 1947.
code thing,
Yeah, believe
Rick.
me.
But, yeah, can still have a little more professional. I'm sorry for your experience.
Yeah, they are, I mean, they're just trying to do the job.
Sit down to Eugene Hotel with a piece of paper back in the 80s, just like that. Don't want the competition. But, you know, you're done.
Just to help us budget our time, because
Sorry.
No, it's okay, I want to make sure we get through this gap impact analysis, because it's been on our agenda.
Yeah.
So, can you give the rest of us an idea of how?
I just have one more thing.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So I'm also kind of jumping to kind of the last section on our agenda, and I apologize about that. But on the agenda, I just want to point out the open session. So I wanted to kind of give the fire chief and the city attorney a heads up that the Toxic Board had more questions and more concerns. And I really, before we start talking about next year's budget, kind of all get to some kind of agreeable point. And so they said that they would like to come speak with all of you and address your concerns and questions in person. So the attorney recommended having an open session. And so I said, well, last time we worked backwards on this, asking the Toxics Board when they were available don't you give me a date and time that both of you are available, and we'll have the toxics board meeting on that. So the only caveat to this is that we will need to get the fire chief and the city attorney your list of questions and concerns in advance, so they can have well-prepared answers, and it can be a really good use of everybody's time. So I know I have some of those already, and that was in the draft July 24th memo to Catherine Brotherton that I sent out to all of you. So the first thing I wanted to ask was, did I capture concerns that were brought up at the last couple of meetings accurately? And does anybody have any more right now? And if not, I'd like you to get them to me in the next 2 weeks. And I'll send out a follow-up email after that. I mean, after today. And really, the idea of having a meeting to discuss, Catherine was concerned about, you guys send a memo, and then she sends another memo back, and then, and then it just keeps going back and forth, and we just wanna kind of try to come to some kind of resolution.
Has this topic been discussed with the newer members so that you guys know what the topic is and what the discussion's been?
This is on the staff recommendation from the City of Eugene organization to look at reducing my position to 0.5 FTE, at the same time work to reduce the reporting burden on industry. Oh, and then reduce staff tasks to only the bare minimum that's outlined in the charter. Yes, okay. Okay, so I will take silence if nobody has anything else on that right now. I will.
What are you trying to accomplish exactly? I mean, I've got a list of who we report to, what we report. Now, some overlap, some don't, some have more, some have less. I was gonna bring the,
So what I'm talking about right now, Rick, is strictly the staff support for the toxics program.
okay.
And so what I'm looking for is your questions and concerns about the direction that the City of Eugene has given the toxics board to consider in developing their future budgets.
Well, I'm not involved in this, like my couple of people in my organization are. I was gonna bring them to a meeting.
Oh, that'd be good.
So they could answer the exact questions. LRAP, all these, and there's 8 different organizations you report to. I mean, you know that, you're up to speed more than I am on. I wasn't here, my wife passed away about that time you guys were meeting on that, so I missed it.
Well, I think we're gonna work on that a little bit more today as well.
In 2 minutes.
Okay.
So anyway, and I mean, again, the direction from the organization is kind of in a different direction than what the toxic board as a whole has talked about previously. And that leaves me and my bosses kind of in the middle. And it's just not a comfortable place to be, and we have to kind of come to some kind of compromise before we start talking about the next budget. So that's what this is all about. All right, so I will send out the meeting request. It'll be for October 22nd. The meeting will be October 22nd at 3:30, which is a Wednesday. And if
You'll
that's,
be sending out all of your little reminder things.
yeah. And if that doesn't work for any of you, I would strongly encourage you to watch the video and read the minutes to get up to speed on what was discussed.
October 21st, I'm sorry.
22nd.
22nd, okay.
But more importantly, in the next few weeks, please give me your, all your questions, comments, and concerns, and I will forward them to the fire chief and the city attorney, so we can be well prepared for that discussion. Okay. That's it for staff report.
Okay, thank you. So now on the agenda, we have the toxics program gap impact analysis work section. So I think what we envisioned is that we would be splitting into the two, what do you call it, where the ad is?
Three sections.
Oh, three, okay. Andre, I have something. So, I guess, Rand, did you wanna come in here and talk with me?
No, well.
Okay.
You
I
can-
never
yeah,
seem to
I like
get the
that.
right now, I print them all out, but they just don't seem to.
Okay, I know. I have one.
I think
And
I'm
you
just
brought
gonna
your-
wait for you to give them to me.
Alright.
Thank you.
Well, I'm very proud of you for bringing it home.
Yeah, I still haven't got a printer that goes
Yes,
with
here,
me.
big enough
That's
file.
my problem too, my printer's kind of always
My
fritzy.
printer and my digital video.
Okay, so, just so we're all on the same page, the goal of this project is to, have the impact gap analysis report complete from the Toxics Board by the end of the year, because we're gonna include it in the Toxics Board's annual report on the program. And right now, we're just working to finish the information for each of the different sections of the Toxics Board, so the neutral section, advocacy, and industry. So just reviewing the information that we've all put together so far, including the attachments, seeing if there's anything missing. And then at a quarter two, we're gonna kind of come back and see where everybody's at, just to start then talking about what the individual section recommendations are gonna be. And then we're gonna come back as a full group, and the advocacy and industry are gonna share what their individual recommendations are for the future of the program. And then Andre is gonna use that information to kind of come up with a neutral / combined recommendation for the future of the program. Does that make sense? Okay, great. And do you want to?
So, you know,
Yeah, that would be great.
you're the one that's. You're the ice cream, right?
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
It's coming back.
So it's a good sign at my age.
Yeah.
Draft for next year,
so-
beginning of the year, okay.
Right, so that.
This
that
was
says
what
that's
she
what
had
we have to
drafted
talk to the applicants.
already, the one dated January
Does
first.
So-
The section on the second page
I
is industry
think that this should
information.
be stated on.
And she's just asking if we want to make any edits to it, if we want to add any
Report on what
information. I'll
information
just
is
help her write them out.
provided by
What
our
is it that she
program
thinks?
and not supplying
Um,
others.
I did read
It's-
it
that's
through.
the scenario we don't want.
Oh, I
Anybody can
I
say.
Well,
tried to
it's
print it, but I
already
actually think
being
that that was the one that got
considered.
stuck in my printer,
We
so.
have-
I'll be right back.
Okay,
I know
thank
it's in
you.
there, but we don't wanna, this is not the main thing, it's, if we eliminate it.
There's a list of the ones that we recorded.
Yeah. And I think they're probably all the same ones that most of us in industry are reporting to. And so, I think the recommendation we had talked about before was suggesting that they will try to work with some of these, at least the state fire marshal, and get it to where we can submit one report for both services.
Oh, that is right there.
Yeah, I mean, El
And
Rapids
that
is a
one
big
is-
one.
Yeah, it really is. And it's a more than a month thing. You don't get to go to the end of the year and report you have, because they want to make sure that if there's a jump in 1 month.
Well, so if we wanted to make a change to El Rapids, we would have to go kind of past that before, I think, and go that route. Right, but since the toxics program falls under the city fire marshal,
Well,
potentially work
we're,
with the state fire
we're
marshal, so
attaching
kind
these
of
other
an
things that
umbrella
talk about
area.
the retail
might be able to
Rapids
encourage
program,
them
the
to
Oregon
at least
Community Right Child
standardize
Protection
those
Act,
reports.
okay, so
So we
obviously
could fill
that
out
is
one, and then
appropriate.
kind of,
because
they could take it and
EPA
split
talks,
us amongst
talks
whomever.
about release.
Or I'd be more than happy to submit 3 reports if it's the same information.
I just wanted to
If it's
to
3
be
different
sure.
databases, 3 different processes,
Great,
but
thank
it's,
you.
as long as the information gathering is on same. Yeah, same units of measuring, same cutoff values.
Changes.
You know, I'll even take two different lists of articles if it's almost the
Think of
units
it sort
measure
of what I
and
had, my thoughts were, one thing is that I noticed, and maybe I just didn't jump close enough, is that there are more, the industry side is listing more, groups that they have to
Because
report
you're
to
not gonna
than
get
that, because I
South Eugene.
didn't know if that was.
Right, so what can we do to make it more manageable, easier, and still meet the community need for information?
No, not that they have to report, but here that they're listing who they have, who the industry has to report to, it's not as many.
And then the people,
okay.
people going onto the website, not necessarily even in this community.
So
They're
I'll start with,
these if we are programming.
what the difference is.
Okay.
So,
Or looking for
the industry folks are talking about,
and looking at
everybody
instead of
that they have to
their own
report to.
ideas,
Sure.
not necessarily people.
and here on advocacy, we just
You said,
Oh, we're at the
thought it
we
was
were trying to pass this through,
Yeah,
get the whole thing.
try to be less show comparison between communities.
Because you'd have to
Where,
vote it
like ODOT, DEQ.
So,
I
what
guess
can we
kind
work
of
on that?
the
Well,
fact
did
that
either of you
transportation,
have any
those are
further
regulatory
information that
based.
you wanna
It is,
add to the justification? That's
Okay, that
Well,
makes
it's
sense.
not-
from this, these were.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything on it.
I can't right now.
Okay. Yeah, read it if you want, Rick, it's a summary of some of the conversations we had previously.
Well, I missed that one.
Yeah,
I
we
really
did,
wanted to be
yeah.
there, and I-
So Sheila and I were,
And why did she quit?
Having
Good
something
job.
about community, what to these
Right.
I know
Okay.
that.
would that help?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to tease out.
Harrison,
Part
yeah,
of
my dad bought Harrison, best friend.
And
Dad
what is
actually
the-
bought Harrison,
the other
started out
question I
working for him.
had
Oh,
was
nice.
just some real clarification on these, numbers.
I thought she,
You know, it makes it sound in here that,
I guess
businesses
that's-
need to purchase this
I guess that's-
$9,000.
Yeah, I think it's a lot.
There is,
It's a lot.
Well,
it is.
you're right.
They're really trying to.
So like, especially in the second paragraph there,
Shane, it was just one
outlines
license.
exactly what you've been saying. We have all these different
Label and
entities to
concept.
Because
report
they wanted,
to.
because their main interest was to make sure that they were.
So in this, there's,
Okay.
And
And
But
you
that-
believe that that's
that's-
specifically to meet our.
Right, that's what's needed.
That's-
We need to formulate that more fully today.
So.
And they don't use it at all for the others.
So
Well,
I
it's a,
know
it was a
this
chemical
program is very much.
Right up his
program,
nose.
so,
is
yeah,
a
they're
right to know
recommending,
program. It lays the groundwork for other people to do that.
Right.
Especially since it was so expensive, but they never would have even thought
For
about
government
purchasing
regulated
this,
or for
this is what
individuals
was reported to me, so that's all I
and so on.
know. And
But
this
it
was
has
just
to
one,
be
but a lot of
just
these
giving
pretty
people
confident
access.
that none of the business.
So I just wanna make sure that
are
we
standardizing, right?
Right.
bestow
Their
that
state
label on
level,
other
their
So,
federal
programs.
so my
level.
intent was just to point out these two.
Well, right, I mean, I think,
Put the
I mean, this is a comparison
Possibly,
of trucks.
or, I mean,
Yeah.
communication is there between the city
Yeah.
It
and
is true
state
that
fire
under each
marshal's
of these, you have to
But
report.
if that's
And
what comes out.
Yeah, I got that.
The way I read it was that this is
something
something that some businesses are having to do. It just, I mean, when it says in addition,
Well, that's
another,
It just
it's
says-
like an
Yeah.
example of.
Yeah,
Yes.
right, even though it may
I
not
mean,
be.
because it sounds like this is an example of what could be happening out there.
it might be that we
Yes.
ask the state to comply.
I'm just wondering, I don't know, I think
Letting fire department people.
that just seems like,
Otherwise,
you
we
get,
didn't want to
this
change
gets brought to our
much.
attention,
But
but
this-
this is what's going on in the community, you would think, oh my gosh, this is
Yeah, but it's, the point is to
onerous.
make that,
Um,
minimize the need
Mhm.
for that.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
also
And
the
so
idea
it's
that
more
it's
just
being
this,
used for
this
other,
one here,
it's being
provided
used
by
for all
other
of this
community
reporting,
right
And then
to know.
maybe
not
take away
just-
I just,
that would mean
wanted to.
reducing
I just
some
found
of
this
the
to really
time.
stick out.
Oh, okay, so I rewrote that sentence. The
If we
applicant
just-
talks to the board, work to compile
Well,
reporting what information.
I
And
mean,
I guess
I
maybe
think
there would
that
be
that's more,
another example, I mean, is there,
Uniquely
do you know
provided
how
by
much
if we didn't discuss budget so
community right
much,
to
we
know.
could start
We did
reviewing
say
what
in
the
our
cost is to
community
them.
right to
Chemical things on our
Oh,
list
well,
and
the
validate
90,000
whether or not they should be there.
I just,
I don't know.
I mean,
But we could be
I was
doing that
thinking,
while we ask
there was some
the
contention.
And then I know
parties to
Ricky and I,
standardize
Nick are
our units of
first
measure
come
with
with
obviously
everything
a
and
different
different
size.
I never,
If they could
but
take
this
care
is
of that,
the
we
one that
could start
operates the
going
fire
through
marshal
cafes.
thing.
yeah.
I bet
To
you
add
put
some,
that
take
list
some
on there.
off.
They, whether they even added any community information.
Right, there might
opened
be
it
new
up to the
data
public, I'm
available,
not
I mean,
sure.
this list was created in '96, there's new data available.
That's
She's talking about section
Okay.
32, which is I think can you write down?
So maybe,
Change.
That's in the act
Its
title.
classification.
Maybe if there's a
Whether
way
they've
to
like
tease that out a little bit more
So
about really
they
what
could
they're
file a
about.
FOIA request,
They go
or
right in.
like the
Does that mean-
guys that were coming in here.
Right, I mean, and so
Some
you have that
have
figure out,
this
that you
one
have,
was
you know,
a-
public
The
access to
difference
that
between
information is only through.
Yeah, that usually doesn't go with
Sounds like,
community
you know,
rights.
especially.
Right,
Basically.
that's not related, I mean.
So they're kind of, we can't change their title, but we don't necessarily want to devalue the term.
Right, so I think we'll take it out of there, we've got toxic reporting requirements
Yeah,
here.
other programs designed for information providing programs, it doesn't say to do it, it's only go to the secretive few, and then
We have the
it's still an
Right.
information program. but
So
it's
maybe
the
for this
spirit
one,
of
say
this
what
one.
type of like an
Right.
example
Well,
of
that city
Right.
what the company does.
I think the only
I don't know, I'm just trying to somehow show
Did you-
that there's a
and
diversity of what
reports
possible
are
how
there,
companies
all
are
of
dealing
the-
with this.
Well, I looked over.
And so for if it's a main organization,
That's one way to get
it's
there.
different than it would be for the brewery.
So the number includes
No, not change,
the
Just
size,
saw smoke out there, but I guess they're not putting this.
That's all we
quantity.
do.
You know, the last time we were here was
These are our
when we were here,
biggest
was when
issues,
we
and the access, this is the thing about the fire marshal's report has the biggest
The
list,
fire station's right over there.
but
So
it's
they-
not
I'm sure that they were doing
accessible
that.
to the public. It's
Oh, there
by
you can see
the
the people mentioning.
Oh.
for the fire department.
They're barbecuing.
So,
Probably.
And
Sorry, we're probably in the safest place for fire.
They make
It
the
says
barbecue over there.
provide for disclosure to the public with information on
Yeah.
each of the
You can't-
substances.
I know, right?
Us,
Would be very
it's about
embarrassing.
20 employees, I think.
This number right here?
Get up to.
Yeah.
Have we talked,
To the,
is it
2000.
17?
Oh, did I say 2,600?
and
Yeah,
then
you said it,
have.
Yeah, no, it's
About
1,700, I'm sorry.
That's
Lawsuit.
okay, so.
Yes, it's
Oh,
more than
it's only
seven.
that
So
many
we basically
under
have
all
to
of these
recommend what if the fee structure changes, basically on an annual
And,
basis.
That's an energy.
Okay.
I can
That's
double
already
check it
included.
again.
That's okay.
The cost of
Fire
running
marshal
the
is so
program,
much
which
bigger
is-
because it's
that fee is
any
the only way to
instance of
fund the program, which is our job, which is why it's pushes back.
So basically, we got these two are restricted access.
So I also think it would
The
be good to show a
EPA's thing, but the
comparison,
EPA's list is smaller.
like one end of the
And
spectrum.
there are some other, they have a similar scale.
middle,
I think the mass
of the
balance.
spectrum would be Rick's.
Right, and I think we've done a
Where
pretty good
Ricky-
job with this chart, and then we've sort of taken items out of that chart and implemented
This
this
is the
text.
biggest breakdown.
Then we need to do the more detailed comparison about
They don't
some
have
of
the
the
money
specific
to
supports.
hire
So I took a look at them.
They don't have really the staff, the time, or the expertise to do our
We've
reporting.
got our
They're just
chart
cramming
breakdown,
it in
and
between.
we've got the fire marshals, which I,
Miscommunications.
So I think it would be good.
Oh,
and those probably the least,
So we show the full
Yeah.
spectrum.
and then the TRI.
I agree, because this has a little bit less weight when you know
Told her, I just don't
This is 2012.
And I do wanna kind of,
Yeah,
just
we
kind of
generate
finish
those
off
reports.
This was this,
Right, right, so, yes, I just meant types.
So,
I feel like
3 years now, this is from 2012.
community service.
What I thought was odd is that this has
and I have
810.
like worked with this report
I
for so
don't know,
long.
pounds of zinc.
I know what I have a vision of it, but it's
So
just like,
except when this is
you know,
just
how
to
do you
kind of.
send this and read it? Like,
Oh,
stop
Yeah, so
seeing
I was
things.
just gonna
Oh,
talk
wow.
I
Sorry.
had Eugene and Oregon State
Same
work
company.
together.
Same company, this is 2013, this is
Standard
2012, but
Alliance.
they consistently have
Could they standardize to
Since they
meet
started
how
reporting in
the
two thousand and
EPA
five,
or OSHA
they
numbers
consistently
are, so
have
that
waste,
it's at least similar
zinc
to
waste
another
that's
type
transferred
of
outside.
site.
What
So
if we
it
said
seems
to
to be like a
standardize
grant
your
and
reportable
very
units of
seriously.
measurement
But
thresholds, preferably in alignment with one of the above
And is
listed.
this
We're looking, you
part of
Yeah,
the
it's
they're
your-
going into
You
their
do-
file?
you
Yeah,
do-
it's part- yeah.
Look at that.
I haven't looked at
Yeah,
the
yeah.
units for.
So I'm just
All
asking,
the product
this,
running
that,
into this
that
is
requires,
10 pounds transferred as well.
this is much lower and stringent reporting limits. Oh, lower limits of chemicals.
This-
Previous year, 1100.
Yeah.
And then it requires a lot more industry representatives to have that for any of the other
So,
programs.
seems that true. Obviously, there's
Okay.
some sort of decrease here.
I don't, I mean, it would make
Zero
sense
in
because we
2013
really
would
do
be fine.
require a lot more detail.
Okay,
Okay.
so,
So
both
for
of those would be
example,
available to the
against,
public
If
anytime.
we look at the chart.
Mhm.
What would be the consequence if they made an error?
Well, I mean, one
So-
thing that this does
Talking about when we actually classify.
is provides us a way
So
to second
we-
check.
Our reporting limits are for extremely hazardous substances, 0.22 pounds.
I mean, we have two sources of
That
data.
amount
They
and
reported
above
at
for
110
extremely
here,
hazardous
they reported,
substances, and 2.2
let's
pounds.
assume that
amount
they
for
reported similar
hazardous
amounts to
substances.
2012.
Whereas
Preferably to be
the
aligned
state
with
fire
at least
marshal's
one
office,
other
which
Ours
reports
is
similar chemicals.
How would you, what, how would you
500
describe
pounds,
it?
500 pounds, 500
Well,
pounds.
But that in itself is actually
A lot
a
more
source of
threshold.
information.
And then
I think
just an
that,
average amount that's on
okay,
there,
we're,
the maximum.
we're trying to,
amount
if there is a
is like
duplication,
range
we're trying to
and
say,
where we
could we
recommend
save the
staff
company money and not do
So that's a lot more
duplication,
measuring,
or is there a
a lot
reason
more
why it shouldn't
analysis,
exist,
a lot
which
more
is kind of what
research
you were
to
headed
look
for,
at
is just
SDS,
saying, well, this is a
figure
double
out
check. Well,
the
one thing is that the
reporting
reinforcement, what
limits.
happens, this agency.
And we have four input categories and 11 output, and
there's any
those
enforcement.
two.
Yeah,
totals
I think
considered
we'd have to
plus
figure that out,
all
yeah,
of
and
the
make that specific
is-
recommendation.
Cannot imagine how often this
Some
company has an error
citizen suit
year end.
provision for actual pollution in clean air, clean water, that gives an incentive for
So same
enforcement if the
chemicals.
agency
And-
fails.
Yep.
Number
But
of times it doesn't.
the inaccuracy of that reporting would not be.
So is that
a
part
citizen
report, I mean,
thing.
I have read
So,
it, but that is in
as far as
the
I can
charter
tell,
itself, that
It would
amount.
depend on
it's good
whether
to
the
know
federal
if I
authorities.
didn't check.
It's
would-
very inaccurate.
Well, let's see, if they,
And then
if
it's
they
a
just
good
say,
idea as to how much,
well,
how involved that was.
Sure, I have a charter somewhere. I do know, yeah. But finding it in here might be more difficult.
For people to know if it's the manufacturer next doors, and I can show you.
to follow up, you care, yeah, in the case of
I kind of
notification, should
see,
be,
right,
sure, you get
I kind of see
information,
that
but
the vault
the
program
federal
is that
agencies are kind of
what's
notorious
not
for
written in
pollution,
charters, and we
and
will actively
politically
search and
manipulated
see
by who they
businesses
put in
who are
as
participating
administrators.
and make them participate, because
It
if anyone's
is,
dumping
and so,
traffic to the
we don't
creek,
have to say
You're
they're
not
scandalous, but we
voluntarily
just simply say,
participating.
Keep seeing section
the
2.
likelihood of enforcement is
Or
different.
people are more
What would
likely to
happen
participate.
if we
here's
accepted
the-
this report as inaccurate here in Eugene, if somebody
So
says,
here's
you
the
know,
Hynix
I think
category,
they
yeah,
got zinc
and
all
when
over
as
the
soon as
place,
something
and
was
they're
not the
close to
whole
zero.
thing totally made sense to me, I was like,
So
oh,
who do they go
no.
to? They wouldn't
So
go to the
are you
EPA
doing 2.2, so
necessarily.
we had a semiconductor dear,
Well, they
file a semiconductor manufacturer.
Harder, but
So Hynix.
Because,
and
and
that's
it
what
was designed that way,
program,
and
so
so
they
the
went into
original
town,
we never
board
changed
members,
that.
as a chemist.
everyone
Yeah.
was worried, because they had
Well, what I'm
silos
saying
of
is
Those
this
data.
is
show
the
with
one
the
where they
inflow and
employers.
outflow.
We work next door to them, so
Well, you could
these
find
guys call us
services
to
that
their
are
death,
It
because
shows.
we have lots of crazy stuff,
proof
but nothing
example of
of
that
volumes that Hynix had. Hynix had silos
But, okay, so.
of the stuff.
Was
we
there a
do.
penalty for following the
Hydrochloric
file?
acid, it eats right through your bone, it gets right into
I don't know. But,
And so, yeah, we
following
were
are the results of the data reports
lovingly called
comparison.
the circle of death,
So,
basically the
I
very
mean,
part
so
when
we
else
say-
ever had a 911 call out
And
there
to
for
really do
Hynix,
this,
it was just
looking
to
at the 2012
evacuate the area. There was
The
not,
TF
no going in.
So what I'm saying with me to pull apart understanding is
We were also very happy when they left.
Why did
because
they
This
leave?
is understandable, this is a really important environment, and then it's costly.
Because we could just do the
But
TRI.
I don't quite see if it's in the charter.
TRI.
Yeah, they were Korean based.
Or what to be, or,
for.
Well, the hospital that was
That's
at
a year,
Sanders.
we cost of business.
I thought they made the chips.
Which
They have
was,
better chips.
you refer back to the memo from last year.
110 pounds.
We left, I mean,
Any,
was it right
and
about
all of
the
these,
time the economy was
takes
taking
up
here
work
and
just keeping the programs to the current standard. I think it's about 5 years ago, doing some grant writing to get additional funding for special projects.
This,
I know.
Equates to
Well,
a lot more work, and that's what is up to
had this thing on the
Sick
cover of the
leave.
fire station.
I already don't
today
have
all day
time
without
to
like
plan
something, so
Right.
stuff got cookies and
We've done
cookies.
city organization.
But as I was leaving, my
Cut
coworker
down my
said,
time
I
in
can't
my
believe
house.
it's been 13 years. And I think it just doesn't make sense. It's been 13
So
years.
do you see
gone
this
through
as
this
kind
13
of, kind
times
of going in the way of,
It's
where
on the
it still
9/11.
really exists?
It just
but
doesn't-
be really independent and get their
Well,
money when they do
just that all
their site
Yeah,
visits,
that's
so
why
that
I-
they think is what's going
My
on.
brother, we're gonna do
Well, I mean,
something.
it has to.
Rick, we haven't got much time left. I'm 73.
And it got to the charter, so.
Go for
Until it
it.
gets voted into the charter,
Yeah.
it will be in existence.
We're expanding this business.
I mean, it's
Lot of
just
reasons.
what all of the
But one of
topics
the
board members decide to as
the
to
southeast
make the recommendation and then what the city council decides to do. I know
Okay,
the
that's
majority
just
of the
something
city
we noticed.
council
I guess we don't have
supports
to.
the program.
Well, the mechanism.
Yeah.
To me, yeah, the mechanism for correcting inaccurate
There's very little
information
issue getting anything passed through.
Spending more time
Or
on
they just ask
evaluating
like
the-
good clarifying questions. 'Cause they're-
Yeah,
Let's
so
look at
let's
the other
see
programs,
if that.
maybe we could take those programs and modify the reporting.
Let's
Yeah, match up.
ask Joe if that's part of the focus with this.
Well,
that's
Because I'm not sure if that's.
Part of the
in
purpose of
the
this
way
is I'm the kind of
Yeah.
person that,
Yeah, right.
Oh, it does talk about that,
Yeah.
okay.
and when I went
It's not like
to
Okay.
city council
you're
And it
a
might
couple
be
years
years
ago,
license.
We've just been focused so
Everything
much
else is
on
not.
trying to
It's the
recommend
business.
to the
So,
city
the
that.
city
what it comes
council
down to
and the
is
city manager asked me to look into these
And the
things.
federal government.
And so I
Combine
did.
the
And
progress
then,
for the state farm.
Yeah,
The
and
top
that's
board,
what
that
I
went
wrote down
down
for
at the
our
time.
recommendation.
And I sent to city council,
And then
here's the
Amber was
options,
suggesting to add the
thing, and then at the end of that process, we said we would get back to you.
So
Right
ours
here,
first.
And we still have one. And so I'm just trying to close that.
Get all that stuff out of the way.
At the same
Sure,
time,
that
I also need to
reports.
fold in the things
Well,
that the direction of the city manager.
I think
But I
that
feel
that's
like
a very
if somebody
interesting
was
question
maturity
that
energy for me,
we should bring up actually
like a
outside
deadline,
of
then we
the
just
project of this.
So I kind of see
Report here.
Requirements of the
But,
charter, are we going
um,
beyond it?
Pulling that piece
Yeah,
out.
so
I mean,
we
as
are.
I
So
was
one
looking
of
at
the
it,
things,
there,
and this is one of the questions that
I
I
noted,
simply
so
earlier
that
a couple of months
the-
ago,
Staff person, I
is
can't.
I'm just gonna
some of the
simplify
things that
it.
Joe's been doing,
Right.
like going out and looking for businesses
it,
that
um,
are participating in doing, that's not required under the charter.
Which some days.
Nowhere is it required, but we all identify businesses that have.
But, you know, and it's just, it's
and
not a
get
good place for
Um,
residents to be in.
This
So
EPA
that's one of the things.
TRI does break these up, does break
I'm just trying to get to,
No, and so I
And
totally
the
understand.
only meet the requirements of the
what,
charter.
I mean, is
Well,
the
the
fire
fire
breaks
breaks
the
the
have
set up
it
for
together,
emissions
something
of
that
that,
everyone
air
would
emissions,
One
wonder.
time,
water,
there
daily
was
land,
there was
underground
nothing
textile.
mentioned back
Uh-huh.
then.
And it's
Right.
We actually.
Nothing
And I know there's
break
this
them up into
discussion
more
around
Looking for new
to just make it
businesses or,
not so difficult.
evaluating those
So
that
I
are
don't
participating,
see that.
because they don't
That
need to
as-
participate or.
Well,
Because
so.
Or that fits on there.
To keep it
So,
up to date.
what I know about the program,
It's-
and my years
Well,
of working with it.
so would, are you saying that they're roughly
This
equivalent
Part of why I
or
find it confusing, because
If I
it
was in
is
industry,
no
release
reference.
as
I would
far
be
as
to make sure that
this
things
option,
keep
access to
going.
the
Who did the initial
I mean,
study?
ideally, I already could tell you, everybody would
where
love that to
stuff
happen.
goes.
Because it
I don't
happened
think
before
it's
the
a
toxic
toxic
that
this
was.
one here, we have
Politically,
three
this program
times
is.
It sounds like.
chemicals.
So to, just kind of become medium
So that's
place.
why, that's what
In my area,
keeps
Well,
coming back and
that
telling
doesn't
us,
really
this
look
is
good.
the only
I mean, we've
option
got that
That's
chart,
good, yeah.
this
Part of it
section
is
of the report is
right.
specifically looking at,
you know, what's
you know,
necessary
health,
to
inherit
It's
these
streamlined in a fashion.
Just spend it.
And so I was just noticing that you have a lot
The
more
deal with that is that
subcategories.
this is gonna talk to
Right
I
now.
think that would help
Me,
us.
YouTube is
Gonna
gonna
be
sometimes
getting
getting
all
all
this
this
information
information
here,
here,
sometimes.
Yeah,
As well as our side,
but
which may end up resulting not necessarily in the program going out to
that's
those.
not necessarily
Make
gonna
it
help
to
us.
get
Yeah,
Say
so
why
through
it's
reporting
good.
out, a lot of times they
Otherwise,
can
it's
sit here for
still-
2
still
seconds.
report the details we don't
And
need.
to make it
And maybe it's.
less
because-
Well, but our
That's
position
just
is
for
for
successful.
I just need some more information.
Yeah,
a year
yeah,
ago,
so what is
say
the
fire
use
marshals
of
on
us
the just make
having
that
that
motion
version
of
to
legislative
help us
process.
to zero in on
Change.
something that
They're
versus
they were rewarded, they were
paying for it versus
push
we weren't
through
now.
and
We
get on
find
top
out
to
about our
eliminate smaller
3 times
uses.
as many
I see.
chemicals.
And we,
Right,
our
because
program,
we
because of our.
always have our list of
City
5
ordinance.
items that are due at our next meeting.
So it's
So
just
does
5
it
items
show
that have been
in
always
minute
like
to
for 6
error?
months now.
Yeah,
We
okay.
talked
I mean,
about
so I'm
actually,
really
an action
curious.
item 6 months ago,
This-
to look up
this
information.
area.
I made
I mean,
sure
I
I had
could
it all
probably
ready to go,
go
but
on
because
this
we
recommendation
never
is
explore that topic, and it's still held
Covered
on.
on
This is a fun program, we need to keep it,
So-
we need to keep it
treated on
strong.
something.
I think part of it's just.
We need to
So
still
that's-
support it as
I can
possible.
understand why you-
Yeah.
So
So I think
what are they saying?
So
I guess I
if we
got
have
that.
this
too.
area,
They
they have.
Same with Eugene.
Water.
Period.
Okay.
Any sort of, usually.
They have discharge,
I haven't gotten
and this
on
is
that
to
question.
land.
I think we just say more reasons to be good, but, you know, maybe if we met.
And so, okay, then we can we switch to, switch to advocacy from other
Sure.
So that,
Well, I guess that's the answer. I don't know if that's.
No, that's
Enterprise
okay. No, you're, no, you
objection
are a
is
lot,
important.
it's
They're
really,
saying
I'm
that
just
the
trying to
EPA is the
figure
only
out.
one that
And
has
then
it.
it would be less important.
Yeah,
Person is
so-
I
not
mean, if
there.
there was a plume in the train
Maybe
station,
each meeting, just because we talked
community
basis.
Pacific, which would have been exempt from our program,
Yeah.
but it was very big.
But they weren't injecting
So
it.
was there something that,
Not just the solvents.
That's just kind of washed
It was
in.
a
is there a
leak.
specific event that
So we had to affected the water.
this?
Yeah, because if you
Right.
have 3 months in between meetings.
But, I mean, it wasn't just from
35,
washing the trains off and letting whatever
just
running
covering where you
Yeah.
are.
So I think that would be under releases plan, which, yeah, we don't have, so I don't know.
Okay, I mean, fracking, underground injection, I guess,
Yeah.
purposeful,
So
pumping
I
of
know last
the
time we were talking about
Like-
recognizing the
Yeah.
question.
So this was before the regulatory.
September.
I don't understand the other logic.
Okay.
They were just kind of trying to
So
figure
that
out
would
how
be
to
released to land.
get their reporting.
But I don't know, I don't know.
How about chemically altered, do they have anything like that?
So
No.
let's see.
So we've always had a strong.
Ship as a product.
And so.
How
Then
would you
with that,
phrase
is
the
that-
recommendation to?
That was the other thing, so we can address accident reports.
Which used to be called a similar name. but-
Our program is the only program that allows you to
Original
assess
director, was kind of the lead person,
the overall
What
national
was
content
the
material
over at the university.
moving through manufacturing.
We give
site.
Well, it's the
what we
agenda,
advocate away, or
Disbanded
chemical?
together and ran out.
It's the agenda.
Whereas,
I mean,
why wouldn't the
So
Well,
that's
EPA
kind of-
program, because it doesn't monitor enough chemicals, or because it doesn't have, is it more like the fire marshal's report saying how much is sitting there?
Our review, 10 or 15 chemicals and makes decisions on whether or not to risk remediation.
Well,
So we just.
The fire marshal just says what's,
Well,
None of us are
because,
reaching out there.
what's on site,
Yeah.
in English, it doesn't say how much turnaround, which gives you some idea how much you might go as pollution,
State farm marshal.
which is very specifically asked by both of these.
Oh, yeah, we have.
Because that's what she
Something along
does.
I found one at work today. and
Yeah,
it was all
the-
about
It says
the
that.
label,
fire marshal
we have to put
report,
this on the documents, do a box.
I think to me that is the biggest difference.
Concerns
Well,
with
first of all, the
the
high
and
quantity
data
After
sheet,
this
network customer service, but it's
reporting for
it's
some
never,
injuries,
it's
although
ridiculous.
extra hazardous have small
Just
quantities.
exposed to a ton of your chemicals,
But
something
the
in customer
fact that
service.
it doesn't give an
How was that?
idea.
And obviously, I was fine, and on that one, I was like, you were telling me that the number on your documents sends me to your, somebody to order.
the other thing,
when I have.
like, when I look at this report by
I
Oregon,
got back to
River, and I see,
answers, but.
you know, something that's.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's what they're, all of the.
I don't have that one. Okay,
Oh,
so
so
I
that's what-
see that and I see, well, they're not saying your batteries,
The
checks for saying
checks
have acetone and they're saying
So
it's not
first
a
the law started
battery.
research,
Before I saw the second time,
there
I
was
was
this.
That's weird.
Under a microscope,
That makes
actually
me think,
see
well, they have it on there, and they're saying
things will be
they would just put
red
it
and
at
then
zero
they're
here
here
because
For free time.
instead of just fuzzy blob.
like, I know they have
So
this
that
many
it's aiding
pounds
Um,
on site.
That's
Just
really
for
good.
battery
Was
storage.
any of these injected in humans?
you know,
Talking to.
well, they're
Well,
not,
right,
they're
right.
not supposed to be, if our customers are doing that, that's
So I don't
not,
know,
but
this, I
all of
mean,
our products
they're
are
pretty
served
sure
for
they're-
research.
they've got somewhere they
That's
say
the
they're
microscope.
I think
and that's, and they, I think they're very
What do you
professional,
call it?
sounds like a pretty professional
Well,
report, has to be a business.
We've, I think since this draft has had a name change, but we're now part of the position
Are there,
which is a much larger,
So,
well, one thing,
in general.
the EPA's
yeah,
rules
it started as molecular
are,
probes.
here's a
And
way,
since I've been on
to
the
sort of defend the
purchased
program.
and
I also,
names
by the
changed
way,
3
this
times.
last paragraph on this draft.
Yeah.
So I think this is
That
about
is
as big as it
like-
gets though, I don't think there's anyone else out there that can afford to buy the company, so I
Standard option one, eliminate.
And you've
program,
been, have you been taught, I mean, that should be
That's
listed
gotta
as
be
some
in
of
the
the reasons why you're
um,
approval.
changes, I can just
The,
imagine.
yeah, our
isn't
employees
it
have been.
fair to say
I
that
would
the
definitely just put in
EPA's
there because I think.
toxic
it would
business
shock
list
or-
is connected to many EPA enforced regulations.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they go to,
I mean, if that's happening,
we're just an
Perhaps they'd be
vehicle
admitting
manufacturer,
to
they
some
said
pain
where
to have these
instruments.
is trying to
Absolutely,
streamline.
basically, you know,
Recently, I think the
it's like
EPA just bought some
self-reporting
of the
whether you're
instruments
violating.
because they do for
Our list is bigger,
when the Olympics were in China, they
does
actually
not
used some of the products that we
imply
developed here to do
that something that's
testing from
significant is necessarily
going
a
to the
crime
Olympics.
or a violation.
When the H1N1
Like
virus
something that's
came
considered
out,
public, so it's more information.
several of our sites were working almost
Regulations.
nonstop to develop the testing kits.
The
So
city
that,
of
you know,
Eugene
you just
has
take a hot swab
no
or.
regulatory power over the.
Yeah, I can see that in my.
We're trying
I'm just
to
trying to
know
think
about
of.
the environment.
If it's
PR, it's
enforced,
to
if we put to report on it, it's
A little bit less.
Lax.
Oh, yeah, and we do the
This is a positive.
whole area of the company that specializes just in those environmental.
It
So
is
everything
true
from like asbestos monitoring, so internal air
The
quality
purpose of
monitoring,
EPA reporting
water
is to
sampling.
ensure compliance
I
with
live in
EPA
the
rules,
county.
reporting to the same agency that enforces.
Oh, you do?
And so
Been there for 28
it's a
years.
delicate matter.
Two or three times.
The last we asked for reporting of things that
Test for
are
that paint.
Right.
concerns, but nothing that
Yeah,
we
and-
have a fine levied on them for
There-
doing
I
it.
knew
If
there
somebody
would
else
be.
found
Yeah,
out
it's
that
not
it
Yeah,
was a
and they
violation,
tested
we have
with
a
the
broader
paint
list.
levels, so
Things that
they
should be of concern, could be of concern.
If I power wash the house,
It's more
it's
accurate.
okay.
To make sure that we're meeting.
Well, only because you don't know our resident.
Well,
That's a qualitative difference.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, but if the
And why our
contractor
list
did
would be
it,
bigger.
he had to collect.
And why the EPA is
Actually,
is smaller.
a gal that
because
ended up painting it, and she washed it by hand.
I think, you know, Lisa would probably
I
know more
wonder,
specifically.
so if
The
that
process
would
is that
actually
Connection
release
between
less,
when you file
because
a report.
what I worry about with stuff like that is the aerosolization,
Fine.
if you know, somebody inhaling it.
Well,
or
Same people you
very,
supply
there wasn't more than
that we're looking at.
For the EPA?
5 square feet in the whole house. And
Well,
I took that to bear.
Yeah.
It only, see, the paint that was there
Water, I think
was not
it's all
the
based
outer.
on what the, everything,
Because I'm-
British Public Wastewater Management Commission had reported that.
Yeah, I painted
And
it
they
to
reported that they
Yeah.
were violating their.
Yeah, so the
And
outer
then,
layers.
No,
Those
they don't.
are considered
I don't
snake
know.
cases.
Yeah.
You know, if they ever got to that point, they could.
But I know that there's a, there's a
Already
perjury,
because they could.
I got down there certifying that this was the correct usage of spray. They know that is
Eliminate the
correct.
program.
Yeah, but you see, if the person is not
Number 5.
required to be a professional
So,
in a field like
did I
that,
saw
I would
somewhere
say,
where
you know,
you written
before
out a
that,
little bit more about
engineers a licensed
Yeah, that is
professional,
on
then
this.
the standard for, I didn't
Oh, that's
understand that council is what you're talking about.
So that's why I attached just to kind of give.
Yeah,
And you're eliminating the ones who are better too.
You're letting people
The
get
latest memo,
and not.
we're just trying to share what the option was all about.
I mean, like,
For hiring a grossly
happy to participate, no,
unqualified
you know,
person
it's
to
not like
file
we're
the
hiring
reports
anything
and make
whatever, but
mistakes.
yes, it could be a
But
little
that would be
easier,
harder.
yes,
You can have
it
it.
is less time intensive, could be less expensive for the smaller businesses, maybe, you know, whatever.
So we're trying to get this, this basically, we're trying to say,
Okay, so,
New,
Oh my gosh, I lost track of
programs,
programs.
I
What they do.
ended up with this.
in a one-page report,
great, I'm
why
gonna read this.
And
the
then correct.
And I want to ask you one quick question while I have you here. So this says that only these options
Okay, so.
will take staff time.
after
But this
thorough
one says it needs additional funding, so I'm wondering why it's not in here. Is it because it doesn't require additional city staff time?
Well, I mean,
that would,
Portable.
Maybe
won't
need
be
more
persuasive.
frequency.
it would,
So
but it
here's-
would,
Do you get specific in the
These,
recommendation?
okay,
That's
so,
what I
okay.
mean.
I mean,
for Joe's,
I mean, some of the
I
things
just
that I
have a lot of-
realized in looking at these reports could go up in the general section as opposed to in here. One of them, the reporting that you voted after details something about citizens to assess the overall amount of toxic materials removing from the industrial site. This
Okay,
not
additional ones
available.
where all of the other
We can't
ones
get that
would.
till after.
No.
we went through
Because
the
the efficiency
plan.
pieces.
Okay, all right. I guess that was just
Right, so-
a, for someone who's not that familiar.
And as far as I know, this is a recommendation to the
Okay.
city council, so that might just be our,
This,
about things they could do or help us with.
in that case, this might not even be,
Well,
It's a good fit.
all right, reports.
because that's recommended.
That's a good clarification.
Yes.
Okay.
you do.
So time check, thank you for that.
I mean, what they say.
I got carried away as usual. All right, so I just kind of want to do a status check with the individual groups. How are we doing on the efficacy side of the report?
We're kind of just getting down to the almost ready to summarize.
We have a few sentences we've typed up to add.
Oh, great. Do you mind sending those to me? Okay, and how about the industry code?
We have a one sentence recommendation
Okay.
that we're comfortable with, and then a question.
Yes.
So this recommendation is in regards to the city council, not necessarily to this board.
Correct. It's from this board to the city council.
So in regards to the third, I guess, fourth paragraph in the gap analysis, specifically talks about the toxics board repeating topics year after year, what we talked about, what's discussed in here, and maybe the efficiency of it in this might not be, or I guess the question is that relevant in this gap analysis, or is that something that's just, we need to work on as a board?
Oh, so we were talking about just working on our own meeting efficiency and getting through some of these agenda topics and not having them on the to get to list for 6 months at a time.
Yeah.
So we were debating whether that is a recommendation that goes in here or that we just discuss as a board.
Well, I think that's an excellent point. So this particular paragraph was kind of recommendations that I heard from Sheena, who was your predecessor. And when I was compiling the initial draft of this report, I was just like compiling the things that I heard at many different meetings, just to give all of us a starting point for conversation. And I would agree with your assessment that this is more of a internal board function thing.
I just felt that
that
was
we
in
don't
there.
really
We
need to
needed
report to the city council on that.
I thought that was in there, we needed to give some sort
Yeah.
of recommendation on how to change it, but that's nothing that they will control
Yeah,
or
that's
even
an excellent
probably care
point.
about.
So with your direction, I can't say no.
Are we happy with just
disagree with that?
striking that last paragraph that says we repeat ourselves over and over and we can address that as a board?
The additional portion, and then we don't need to recommend a change for
Not on
that.
that, but our recommendation, this one would still stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay
Okay,
with that.
so we are done and ready to make our recommendations.
Are you ready to share it with the
Oh,
rest of the group?
we were gonna rely on you to help us with the wording appropriately. But our recommendation is that the city of Eugene work with the state of Oregon to work, try to standardize at least the reportable units of measure and reportable thresholds, preferably to be in alignment with at least one other reportable agency such as EPA, DEQ, LRAPA, et cetera.
Okay. Great.
Can you say that one more time?
A little bit slower. Oh, sorry, are you writing this down?
I'm just trying to.
Well, you can keep this if this
Oh,
helps.
sure.
I was planning to hand this to you, but we were recommending that the city of Eugene and the state of Oregon fire marshal offices work together to standardize the reportable units of measure and reportable thresholds, preferably to be in alignment with at least one other reportable agency, such as EPA, DEQ, LRAPA, et cetera.
LRAPA report is that
Yes.
every day.
Yes.
And I don't know if the units of measure are, they're probably not in line with
Yeah.
at all.
So, I mean, if
She
we,
would know that, or
if we
somebody.
can
I
get
think-
3 of those agencies to have those 2 items standardized, I mean, it would just be
And
extremely
it's a rolling
meaningful.
report, it's not, at the end of the year, you report it. They want it rolling each month, so they know if you have a spike in the usage of a certain chemical in each month. And, you know, it's pretty in-depth, that's paint, everything that goes in our paint, period.
Jill, can I ask a question related? The LRAPA report that it was on this one, I don't actually see emissions data in here. It seems like a lot of permits.
You don't see what?
Emissions reporting data.
That's what this
Yeah.
this
In the
is.
toxics report,
In this printout from LRAPA.
Yeah, you guys haven't seen this. Well, this, so,
Maybe this is
Lisa
the-
asked for these, and she's more familiar with these other agencies reporting. And this is what someone can get if you know how to work around the back of the LRAPA website.
Okay.
So it's
this is
just,
what's public data.
so
on the
this is,
website?
yeah, so that's what we were doing with the copies of reports, just showing a comparison of what kind of information is available.
Okay.
And that wasn't
Yeah.
too easy to get to.
Okay. There is something in there, but I don't know that it's emissions data. It looks like what's permitted. The releases that are permitted.
Yeah, and I can find out for you, but Lisa might actually
Should ask her.
know the answer to the question.
I'll look at our chart and see.
Yeah, no, I mean, Lisa's very familiar, she's
She's not-
done a lot of analysis and working with them too. And if not, I'm able to help out. Okay, so you're gonna give me that sheet, okay? And then, I'm sorry, we're just gonna go a few minutes over, is everybody okay with that? Yeah, okay, I will talk really fast. So was that all you guys said? Okay, oh, excellent work. So Andre, and I have been, I've been trying to help get Andre up to speed. And just to give her full context, because she needs to come forward with a neutral recommendation, which I kind of envision probably as the platform for the joint full board recommendation. So to help her understand what both sides have been talking about so far, I gave her copies of your draft industry information and advocacy information. And for the industry, she had a couple of recommendations. One in talking about the comparisons of reporting and what different businesses have done in response to the Toxics Right to Know program. We thought it might be more helpful for people like city council that don't know, that aren't familiar with the ins and outs of the program, to show one end of the spectrum as your company, like a middle of the spectrum as your company, and then at the other end of the spectrum, a smaller company. And so just really calling out what type of business yours was, as well as kind of the smaller business, as well as what the cost, the staff costs are. So first of all, is that okay with you? It makes sense to you since it's your part of the report. So then what I'll need from you, Rick, and I have to look at what you sent me already, so I'll send you a reminder email in case I don't have it. But just showing the cost of what, the financial cost of you paying somebody to do your environmental reports. You sent that to me, didn't you?
I might have.
Okay.
I think Bob Todd, the purchasing agent, he's the one who handles it, and he works with Andy Pointer.
Yeah.
You know,
I know both of them.
rather than have a full-time person, we use Andy Pointer, and we use the department heads to report. You know, it's mainly on our paint, and they report that every day. We have the paint companies give us the information, and then we report what we use, and so on.
All right, so did I miss anything else, Andre?
I was just wondering if there's any way to tease out the costs that are specific to this program. Like
What?
with the reporting for this program, if you know what the cost is.
Well, I
The
can
cost
give
of
you a
the
cost,
program.
yeah. I can tell you what we pay sometimes. We pay Andy Pointer as much as $20,000 a year. Because,
For
Right.
just this program or for
Yes,
all the
just-
programs?
well,
And I think that's what she's asking,
Yeah.
is if you can go back to whoever your finances people are, and they could somehow parse out what you pay just to meet the requirements of this program.
yeah, I can do that, roughly.
So, placeholder, I'll put approximately 20, and then I'll send you a follow-up email as we get
Okay.
specific. Okay,
But I might be on the high side compared to other businesses. I don't know.
well, but it's, I mean, so what I'm trying to show is the different ways that businesses respond. So they have staff people that do the reporting.
Well, yeah.
You
Contract.
have, you have a
We do
contract
both.
person.
Yeah.
And then there's a smaller business that, they try to jam in between their works that they need to get
Well,
done to make money.
well, I'm not gonna tell my
Okay.
works here.
I'm out of time, so we gotta be quiet now. Okay, so excellent work, everybody, thank you so much. I will send out meeting requests for the October 22nd open session. And if that doesn't happen to take all of the time, then we can do some more work on this. And I might have some preliminary budget numbers to start providing you with.
One thing you might do is just before the meeting, print out, or everything that we needed for this meeting, all the information. Because I print
only
it
do
out
that
and
upon
somehow I
request.
lose it over the months, because I never seem to, well, I just wait for you to bring it. I never seem to have the documents that I need.
Well, I'm supposed to use as little paper as possible, and there was so much stuff for this impact gap analysis report, I did print out copies, but in general, I don't print out copies
You know,
of
if
handouts
you
for
just
everybody.
emailed us at the last, then I could print them out.
Oh,
Are you
yeah.
asking for one concise email with
Yeah.
all the documents
Yeah.
that we might need for one
Yeah.
meeting?
That's just me.
Well, that's the one that I sent out a week ahead of time, so I can just re-forward that.
I thought I had it in there, so I just
Okay, so I'll
got it.
email Joe the
The
change
Robert
wording
rules
here.
of order.
Okay, and a
And then-
similar thing on the last,
Yeah.
We-
Christine?
Okay.
the
Christine,
president.
That was
Are-
without
oh,
Eugene's
I'm sorry.
program.
Are we adjourned or continuing?